Welcome to Vision Media. Today I am joined by a very special guest, the pirate leader, Bostonman18. Boston, welcome.
Thank you, thank you. It's great to be here.
Yeah, you must be a very happy man recently because your party might actually become the first pirate-led government. I'm even shocked to say that. So you must be a very happy man.
Yeah, no, we're giddy. We're giddy over in our camp.
Yeah. So let's just talk about the recent events just coming up to this election. So we saw in the chamber on Sunday Michael M. Rothschild in his final address to the House of Commons calling the Pirate Party slimy politicians and snakes. Could we get any comment on that?
Yeah, so Michael and I have talked since then. We've worked out the communication errors that we were having. He might still believe that, I'm not sure, but he was also made privy to some information that there were also quite a few snakes and very slimy political opportunists within his own ranks. I
Mm.
obviously won't be dropping any names out of respect for him. Obviously he's retired, he's done. I wish him the best in the House of Lords, and I hope that he has a great time there, a lot of fun, because he was a good prime minister. But there were a lot of snakes and political opportunists in that party as well. Obviously, with like the whole Vonk and the whole
Yeah.
incident surrounding Drac, they have their
So,
own issues to work out, and it's pretty hypocritical for them to accuse and lambast us for that.
yeah,
Have the
so
same issues
speaking
going
of
on.
that, would Harold be one of those, politicians?
Well, as I said, I won't name any names. I'm not gonna name drop anybody because there was quite a few people on the Unionist caucus that was a part of this, but um, obviously I'm
Fair.
I'm not gonna drop any names out of respect for the agreement that we had that I made myself with Michael, to keep things less toxic in politics because we just got off the blunt side of forward, and
Mm,
obviously no one wants to return to that.
yeah. So when I just have to ask, over the past couple of days, we've seen a bit of fighting between you and Harold Rothschild in your respective political discussions in the UK main server. Can I ask, do you think that the Unionists can lead a good government if they are re-elected?
Um, I think it depends on who is leading the Unionists. Obviously, I think Harold's already actually fully won the leadership election. Um,
Mm,
Obviously, I feel like he has the connections to be able to succeed. Obviously, I think he'll struggle a lot more than like Michael would have, but I believe that Harold does have connections to where he can at least have some backup options to like rely on in the event that he doesn't know how to do something or how to govern properly. Um, in general, though, the Unionist Party, like as a whole, governing, absolutely not. I mean, if we look back to this past term, I was doing the job of the foreign secretary while also doing my job as the home secretary because the foreign secretary refused to do his work. Drac was fired for not doing his job, so a pirate had to fill in for him at Chancellor of the, I'm not going to pronounce it, basically the Treasury, and that was Liam. Um, so I mean, just all the great offices and all the cabinet really outside of the very I believe a couple of the junior roles. Some of their guys in the junior roles were doing good, like Inky in Northern Ireland. All the major roles though, they completely failed in. And it wasn't just like a minor fail, it was like a drastic fail. To the
yeah.
point where I'm as the deputy prime minister having to do their job, or Liam has to do their job, or Sean has to do their job. And so I think that if they were to elect into government, I think that they would fall apart from the inside. And I
Right.
think it's as simple as that.
Yeah. So I understand that the Pirate Party was a part of the coalition. Are you confident in saying that you did your best to continue this coalition, to continue working with the Unionists?
I think that we did quite a lot, yes. Quite a decent amount to try to uphold the coalition. For example, obviously, as I mentioned, we did the King's speech policies for the foreign secretary. We also actually wrote the King's speech when Michael was hospitalized. Obviously, I'm not holding that against Michael because he was hospitalized, but it does go to show that we were doing our part to uphold the coalition. I went and spoke to Stewart himself during the King's Speech vote to try and attempt to get him to approve our King's Speech because we received information that the Social Democrats were going to no on it. So there's quite a lot that we did, and then again, as I said with in the most previous question, we were literally filling in at every position pretty much for the Unionists, and I have
So
proof
they
of all of this.
so basically the union you were technically kind of manning the ship, and the unionists were kind of, not really there. Would I be correct in saying that?
Absolutely, and so JBM isn't really to blame for this, Michael, because for the first week, again, he was hospitalized. And I will never in my
Yeah.
life say put Roblox over your real life. I totally understand. No harm to Michael for that at all. But the rest of his party and the people that are there expecting to take leadership or they were like griming for first secretary of state and they refuse to do anything for themselves. Those are the people that my caucus and my party had a problem with, and they're honestly the reason mostly why the coalition fell apart. Obviously, there was some controversy surrounding the whole 2-week rotational prime minister
Yeah,
promise,
well,
but
can I just quickly ask on that?
yeah.
There has been rumors that Michael had refused to give up the position. Is that correct?
So I don't think he was refusing at all. I think he was just delaying. This comes into those communication errors I was speaking of earlier. I received word that so the original agreement. I'll give some context. The original agreement when we made the deal to stop forward to form government was pirates, unionists, and social democrats. And the original deal that got my caucus to agree to that was Michael promising prime minister rotation 2 weeks into the term. Okay. Um,
Hmm.
and that's what the deal was. It was as simple as that. We both agreed. We also agreed that he would announce it in his appointment statement, or like a just a statement in general when he took prime minister, that he would be rotating it to us. So in the event that he didn't, obviously we could then be like, oh look, he promised us something and didn't. So that was the original agreement. What ended up happening was, um, P5 got delayed by a week. Michael had the attempted vote of no confidence against him, and as a result, he decided to delay it by a week, which would have been 3 weeks, and that upset my caucus. But after speaking with Michael one on one, we've realized that that was just a miscommunication, really, between us, and it could have been handled better. But um, obviously, I'm not too upset at all about that. My frustrations come from how the Unionist caucus was acting towards ours, and the initiative they had to do their jobs.
Yeah. So I think we have some questions from the Westbridge audience that I've been gathering for the past couple of hours. So I think we should move on to that. So the first question is that on Sunday we saw the Unionists make countless excuses that the timing wasn't right for the election, that we were in that it would cause more instability. But the common trend is they always kind of say that when everyone wants an election. And it's a true statement. Don't so if any unionists are watching, please don't sue me. But we so if people are calling for an election, people are in the galleries shouting for an election, and you knew that the election time was coming up, would you call the election when you felt that the people desperately wanted it?
Do you mind repeating the question? Sorry, I got
Yeah.
distracted
My
by
question is
my roommate.
if yeah, of course, if the people wanted an election and were, telling any politician going into the galleries at PMQs demanding an election, and would you call an election if the people massively supported calling one?
Yeah, so I mean that's the big thing is, do the people massively support it? Obviously, if some lone individual goes and is calling for an election and is known to be like a forward person, or well, I guess not forward now, but like a well-known unionist, and they're calling for an election, obviously then you may not consider it. But if it's a mass drove of people and a lot of people are like, call the election, including two opposition parties, the party that you're in coalition with, and a lot of the people that you're elected to represent, um, I believe that it's pretty obvious that an election is pretty
Mm.
necessary there.
But would you say that the unionists do use the excuse that every time there is an election, they would say, and I quote, "It's not the right time, it'll cause instability. we need to get this country under control and then call one. Wouldn't you agree?
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Continuing on the little charade that you've been pulling on for the past couple of weeks, we that was a
Uh,
miscommunication. Miscommunication.
oh no, I thought it was funny.
You
We
also
have
attacked the Social Democrats in a little campaign ad the other day, and we were just wondering, what your opinion is of V hierarchy and the Social Democrats, and if you did become the largest party, would they be a coalition partner?
So the thing with them is we've actually had pretty friendly relations until they started making attack ads on us, and I
Mm,
just find it highly hypocritical and comedic that the social democrats of all the parties in this country has the absolute gall, the audacity to say, "Are you tired yet? So are we." Because as you could see in the video and the ad that we released with the pirates, they have over 75 images in the last 3 months of just absolute clownery from their party. And
mm,
that is just surreal to me. You've had 3 leaders resign because your own caucus has been so bad. You've had your 4th leader make random attack ads and basically blow up all relations he has with other parties for no clear reason. I mean, not really sure exactly. Diss our video as being irrelevant, even though he quite literally fell into the same trap that every former social democrat leader has, to where they say, "Oh, ready for change? Oh, ready for us to actually enact our promises?" And then proceeds to do the same exact thing every single time, which is either corruption, a corruption scandal, an abuse of power or power hungriness scandal, or just straight up resigning because they have no business whatsoever being leader. And I think that they're well on track to this again. You'll see. I mean, I think as long as like 90% of the social democrats that have been there for like, the past 4 months, 5 months are still there, that party will continue to struggle. Because
mm.
again, it's almost like how Trump says the deep state, except like in a Roblox social democrats form. They have a
Yeah.
deep state of people in their party that inhibit it so much that it's just a disgusting display, in my humble opinion. And that again is put on show in our video where you could see over 75 images of just corruption, scandal, just dirty politics from the Social Democrats.
So on Friday, there's an independent debate, and is there a BBC debate? Does anyone
So the
remember that?
BBC debate, I believe, got canceled because of the independent debate. I think they're doing a question time.
Yeah, yeah. Let's talk about the upcoming debate. A lot of people in Westbridge are also hoping that you use your magic of going absolutely nuts in these debates.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to this debate. Um, Obviously, I'm under the impression that the people I'll be debating against aren't very experienced with them. I don't think via hierarchy. I don't think Stewart. I think's done one. And then I don't think Harold's actually ever done a debate. I'm not too sure. So I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be a good time. Um, Obviously, I'm gonna win, and it won't even be close. But
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
definitely looking forward to it.
Yeah, so let's just talk about the National Party because you know, over the past couple of weeks, the National Party's been, campaigning a lot heavily in Westbridge right now. So what are your thoughts on Stuart Freeman and the National Party? Are they all right or are they, wrong in your opinion?
Um, Stewart and I have had some pretty solid relations throughout the term, and throughout his time as leader. We had obviously had our issues with the previous national government and caucus, and obviously he hasn't changed it too much. It's still relatively the same people, but under Stewart, we've had more confidence in the Nationals. We have been able to trust them a bit more, which ultimately that's what it all comes down to, is being able to trust more. And so I'd say that Stewart's done a very good job at, assisting in his party's image in that regard. And we would absolutely be like open to a coalition with them, or at least discussing one, negotiating things.
Wow. That's definitely a U-turn because,
Definitely, yeah.
yeah, because we've always had the assumption that pirates and nationals really disliked each other, and you guys are kind of different in political ideologies. I mean, the nationals are very far right, and you're kind of in the middle.
Yeah, no, I mean, it. obviously the whole political conundrum, like this party leans right, this party leans left. It doesn't really mean much in Roblox. We're dealing with a role play simulator, as I'll put it, to where it really does not mean that much to be left or right in this game, because ultimately the policies you're implementing are going to relatively be the same. Obviously, like, the Social Democrats could do like workers' rights and things like that, but for the most part, every party has similar policies, and leaning left or right doesn't really matter too much. So the U-turn here basically comes from our former view on them, under Bushberry, where we weren't really willing to work with them as much. But, as I said, Stewart's done a good job in building trust with his party. He's been leader, I think, for 3 or 4 weeks now. And, they've been a lot more friendly, a lot more negotiating since then. So
Yeah.
I think that he's done a relatively decent job.
Yeah, so I think that people really want to know, some people are very hesitant to vote pirate because they think if they do, they'll just kind of prop up a social democrat, maybe unionist government in case those two parties are back on top. So, what would you say so if there's any newbies watching this, people who just joined the server and want to know about pirates, what would you say to them who might consider your party?
I tell them to actually look, and do some research into what policies have been passed in the past 2 months that have actually been revolutionary. What policies have benefited our country the most? You'll see that they either derive from the pirates or were actually directly implemented by the pirates. Obviously, a good example of this was abolishing the DCMS, which has, in my opinion, made media a lot better than what it was. Obviously, media just used to be used as basically just a political gimmick for people to make their own companies and then fill general news with a bunch of baloney, a bunch of stinky barnacles,
Bunch of
and
baloney,
so
baloney and barnacles.
a bunch of baloney, a bunch of dirty barnacles. Um, obviously, since that has been abolished, things have been better for media, with one exception to HHP George or George Godsent with Forward, but obviously that issue has been handled as well. Um, so my advice would really just be look into history of what the pirates have done, and you will see that we're the only party that hasn't implemented filler. We're the only party that's actually executed change and demonstrated it throughout our entire course of our history. People say that we're snakes and that we're traitors, but every reasoning we've had to do something has been completely valid, and any person in our position would have done the same. I mean,
Yeah.
especially leaders that accuse us of such. My advice is consider the pirates have never been prime minister. There's never been a pirate prime minister, and consider the state of our country. There's been a national, there's been a social democrat, there's been multiple unionists in prime ministership, and just consider the state of our nation when actually going to vote, because it's pretty evident what's happened here. And with the pirates and government, that would be a lot different.
Yeah, yeah. So, speaking of that, so after the events with the Unionists, are you gonna rule them out for any coalition deal, or is there still a chance of redemption?
No, absolutely not. I mean, I put out a statement in my channel. I'm not sure if it was really well read or anything. I know it was in the pirate server, but I'm not too sure if people outside of the party read it very much. But regardless, no, we're completely open to working together with the Unionists still. Really, any party. We're willing to coalition with any party. Um, we
Don't you
had our
think it's a
beef with
bit?
the Unionists.
Don't you think it's a
Uh,
bit strange to go back into a coalition where half the party was half the Unionist party wasn't even wanting to work with you, and you had to pick up the slack for them?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, trying saying that I'm considering it doesn't mean that it's like a shoe in or anything that we're doing it. But there's a new leader now. There's a new person. Obviously, with a new leader comes changes to the caucus. Um, we provided our reasons for why we actually elected for the election. The balance of power was completely offset in Parliament. The election 2 weeks ago, things have changed dramatically since March 1st. Obviously, with Forward going away entirely, that's a party that got 175 votes or so, if I remember, 179 before the deduction. Having a party like that just disappear off the face of the earth in a week really offsets the balance of power in Parliament. I mean, we had 35 seats being represented, and there was no real reason not to call a general election except for holding on to power. Um,
which is
so
wrong.
obviously, which is wrong, right? And that's a major reason we elected to end the coalition and go for the general election. Um, Obviously, we'd be open towards working together with the unionists. They have a new leader. They're going to have new people in their caucus, uh, different thoughts and opinions. It'll be a little strange because considering what has happened, and it would be a little awkward. But if they're willing to demonstrate the change and demonstrate that they care about their jobs and actually have the initiative to do them, I see no reason why the Pirates wouldn't at least consider them, hear them out.
So, Austin, some people in Westbridge are calling you the new Tony Blair for some reason. I think it's because honestly, there is a lot. In the recent polls, you are rising, and membership has reached an all-time high. So I was just wondering, if you were elected prime minister on Saturday or maybe Sunday, I can't really remember. Um, what would be the first thing you would do? What would be, and would you do anything different if you were, if you would you do anything different than in the coalition if with the unionists if you were in charge?
So first, I want to address the Tony Blair accusations. Both thank you and not cool. All right. Tony
Damn.
Blair was like both one of the most popular and unpopular prime ministers. I think that's wonderful. But I am not Tony Blair. No, I put myself more like Margaret Thatcher. Something like that level. But
Oh,
in regard to your question, if I was elected, like what would I first do? It's obviously kind of difficult to say the very first thing that I would do because we would be working in all departments. But off the top of my head, the things that I could say we will do like day one is to evaluate the state of every department. Identify what they need immediately to help push them forward function like in functionality. Obviously in the last term, even though it lasted for 2 weeks, we got a lot done with the judiciary. We got a lot done with the home office, which were the two departments that we had the prime position in. Our chancellor in less than 24 hours pushed out a budget that had been delayed for 2 weeks, uh, which shows that we are more than competent and ready to work, and that we're actually willing to do the work the moment we're elected till the moment we're finished. It's hard though, to pinpoint exactly one thing that we were going to do first. We have our first week, and then we have the King's speech. So, I mean, working on the King's speech, our policies for that.
right.
Making sure that everything we campaigned off of gets included, so we can actually have that as like a goal to work towards to attain. But that's what we would do. We would definitely be different. Day one would be a great day for action, I would say, contrary to the parties and the things that people and the other parties usually throw. Obviously, we would celebrate our victory, but we'd immediately get to
Yeah.
work. That's the difference with
Yeah.
us.
Yeah. So if there is one party in this entire server, now I know you've kept a very respectable tone about all of them, but I just wondering, which party do you think would do the worst slash harm in office if they were elected?
Albion. Jokes aside, because they got their registration denied. Phoenix. All right, jokes
Mm,
aside again, because they also didn't register. Worst harm in office, it's really difficult to say because all three of the other leaders are brand new and none of them have
mm.
held office, even
I mean,
deputy
you're the
prime
only
minister.
one. I mean, you're the only one who survived since, I mean, the December election.
December election, right. So that's a difficult question to ask. I think based off caucus, most likely the Social Democrats, if
Mm.
or the Unionists. It's really hard to say. Um,
So would
Obviously,
you
we
say
don't
that?
know.
So would you say
Uh,
that you're the alternative from those two parties?
oh, absolutely. And again, 80 to 90 new people since the December election have realized that. We shot up from I think it was like 71 votes to 114 in
116,
one term.
116, 116.
116 in one term. So people are starting to realize we're the alternative. And even in 2 weeks of government, we showed that we're the alternative, and we showed that we're ready to work and get over all this political partisanship and bureaucracy through actually acting and doing what we were elected to do.
Right. So now let's move on to the upcoming debate again. So I hope we can all hope. you'll have some nice zingers to put out there. Yeah, we hope. We do hope.
I'm a
Because
man of zingers, so you don't have to
you have a
hope.
man of singers. You have a man of singers.
Mhm.
Uh, anyway, what would you say to, geez, I'm running out of questions here. Oh, here we go. Here we go. So there's a man on Westbridge who I recently witnessed, I think his name was Ollie Oscar, and and me and I witnessed something, and I think it's really sad, is the abuse of power coming from the police, where an innocent person who had no weapons on him was arrested, and I mean, she was arrested for no reason.
Mhm.
They told her that they found like a knife on her, even though she didn't. So, would police reform be a part of the King's speech at all, or
Actually really glad you brought this up because that's one of the two things we did legislation wise with the home office in the most recent term, the 2 weeks. We reformed the His Majesty's Inspectorate to essentially basically have less bureaucracy while still being able to function properly. Police reform was ongoing while we were in our term last, and we plan to continue that. Obviously, the procedure for that obviously will go by Met's standard operating procedures, but with the addition of His Majesty's Inspectorate, obviously that person could report that offense, like that abuse of power to the Met Public Relations team. The Met Public Relations team would do their investigation and obviously have a decision on that. And if the person disagrees with the decision of the public relations team, then they'd be able to go to His Majesty's Inspectorate, who would do their own independent investigation. And from there, that'd be an extra level to, ensuring fair police conduct in Westbridge. So that was actually something that we were working on, and we actually proposed and got passed through the Commons and the Lords, but the Lords amended it and
yeah,
sent it back to the Commons in the most recent term. So yeah, I
yeah,
mean, we would absolutely be looking toward doing that in the upcoming term.
yeah. So, Boston, I think, this whole country desperately does need change. So, what we want to know is, if there, oh, geez, I'm definitely running out of questions today. I mean, I had so many on Westbridge, and I'm completely forgetting all of them. Damn me.
Gotta write them
Um,
down.
yeah, I do gotta write them down. I'm very disorganized, I'm afraid. But oh, here's one. Boston. I mean, I think that I think your party does take an anti-NATO stance, does it not?
Yeah, we do.
But we ask, why is that?
Because if we were to join NATO, we would be contributing like 99% of the activity and resources to it, and that's a toll that the United Kingdom cannot afford right now.
Mm,
I believe all of our good friends at the Foreign Office also do not like NATO and want nothing to do with it. There's a lot of personal reasons and political reasons in the interest of our country to not be interested in joining NATO. We for the most part, it really just it would be like another Commonwealth for us. Commonwealth, like in the past year, I'd say, to where it just
yeah.
doesn't contribute anything valuable to us. It's a program, an organization that we are propping up and investing in, and that's just not something that we're interested in doing right now. We don't have the people, the time, the resources to do that.
So, Boston, I think this is one of our last questions. So, it's about the UKFO. Now,
Mhm.
I believe football and I believe another member of the Albion party were in it, and you know, there's constant killings on the street. And I mean, it's
Mhm.
daily. I believe they have a kill list of everyone they have to kill if they're seen in game. So my question is, there's been lack of action from the unionists when they were in government, and they said, they kept flip-flopping, saying they're no longer a threat, they are a big threat. What would you do to solve this crisis?
Well, I was the Home Office secretary for 2 weeks, and we took some solid action on that, I believe. Um, Even going as far as to consider their status as not being national security threats. Um, UKFO is kind of a gray area because in one aspect, and this is the aspect that I believe the group developers have, they contribute a lot of activity and they contribute a whole different aspect of roleplay to our game.
Yeah.
Whether that's and this is how the Met views it as well. You have people whose entire purpose on Westbridge essentially is to commit crime, which gives them purpose in their job. Obviously, it's becoming very frustrating for the people of Westbridge that aren't interested in that, like the London Fire Brigade, the London Ambulance Service. They don't really want to have to basically log on, get killed over and over until they log off. And so I understand that, and there's definitely a balance that can be met here to where we have less just in general crime and less people not wanting to play as a result of it, while still having the aspect that organized crime groups contribute to the United Kingdom that OCGs and the Met both enjoy. And that was a balance we were trying to figure out and we were working on when I was Home Secretary. And I believe that we got some solid work done on that, and we would love to continue on that if we were elected in this upcoming election.
All right, thank you so much, boss. It's been a pleasure having you. And folks, remember, do cast your vote this Saturday in the general election. Your vote matters. Thank you for joining. I'm Mr. Bruce Ismay, and thanks for watching.